Good evening, guys. Welcome back to NationalHSFB.com. I'm your host, Larry Godwin, along with some fantastic guests tonight. You guys know my counterpart at National HSFB. He also goes by Joe Maimone at Prep Gridiron Logistics. Welcome back, Joe.
Hey, Larry. Thanks for having me. I always look forward to this annual call and comparison of rankings.
Absolutely. And we have two very notable guests tonight. We got Jeff Fisher from National High School Football America and Zack Poff from MaxPreps. How you doing, guys?
I'm doing well. Hope y'all are doing well. It's that time, right? Practice is underway.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
You can't complain, man. That's why I love jumping on the show with you guys, because I know it's almost time for the real football to actually start. So
absolutely,
one year coming up.
Absolutely. Listen, I guess we're all accustomed to playing high school football in 100-degree weather nowadays. So, that aside, I think we can agree, we're all super excited for the start of the season because we're going to get into it tonight. We're going to talk about some perennial powerhouses, but I took a look at all three of your top 20s that you sent to me ahead of time, and I was kind of surprised on a handful of teams that made your list, and I'm really anxious to talk with you guys about the justification on why you add them to the teams. Now, obviously, for time's sake, we can't go over all of your rankings because most of you do a top 25. Jeff, you do a top 300. So
crazy.
so if we have time tonight, I'd like you to get into one or two teams that maybe didn't make the top 20 that we're going to talk about tonight that kind of sticks out that you're really looking forward to see how far they can rise up in the rankings. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
So let's get into it, guys. We're going to throw the rankings up on the screen. Now, I've got this listed out by each of you. Each of you got your own columns. So you guys want to start at the very top at number 1 or start at the bottom at number 20?
I'll go with whatever the majority thinks.
I say we start at 1. That's what everybody wants to see and talk about.
I agree.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's just get. So 2 of the 3 of you agree that St. John Bosco should be preseason ranked number 1. Now, Joe is the outlier here, and he's got St. Francis Academy. So let's talk about the 2 that goes with St. John first. Zack, we're going to start with you. Why did you put St. John Bosco at number 1?
Every year, St. John Bosco with Coach Negro, they're in the conversation to begin the year at number 1. The job he's done with that program. They return a lot of key players. Obviously, the big question mark for Bosco this coming year will be at wide receiver. Losing a guy like Madden Williams, Daniel Odom, those are going to be tough guys to replace. But, you got DJ Tubbs. I think he's going to be a big-time wide receiver, their number 1 option. But the main reason for me was they got 3 starters on the offensive line coming back. Elijah Mueller transfers over from Servite to help solidify the O-line. And then you got Koa Malulu at quarterback. He's a guy who's been starting since he was a freshman. He's played in big-time games. I think he's going to have his best year yet. And it's nice, too, because he opened the year at Bishop Gorman August 21st. That'll be a MaxPreps game of the week. You can watch that on our YouTube channel. That's going to be a great game right off the bat to start the year, 1 versus 2. But, they bring so many key returners back. I know they had a tough first-round playoff exit last year against Orange Lutheran. Crazy rain, weather conditions, but, no excuse for Bosco. I think they're going to bounce back in a big way this year.
Jeff, what you got?
A lot of what Zack said there. And, just for people that don't know, we use an algorithm to rank ours, which makes it even harder. There's no opinion involved with it. But obviously, as Zack said, they've got a lot coming back. I've talked to Coach Negro several times when they released the schedule, which once again is one of the toughest in the nation. And then after we popped him up at number 1, and, he never steers away from wanting to go for a national championship. It's Trinity League first, state championship second, and then a national championship third. As Zack said, that first game for them and the second for Gorman, although Gorman's first game isn't going to be a tough one for them, is the real interesting one to see what happens. And, I think, their 22 are as good as anybody in the country, but like any high school football program in the country, you got to stay healthy. So that's the thing, that I look at. But again, with an algorithm, when you do a preseason ranking, I've been on the record for now 15 years saying this. I hate preseason rankings. There's no way to do it legitimately with an algorithm. But, when you look at returning starters, which we put into it, strength of schedule, tradition, that puts the Braves on top.
Jeff, you bring up a good point. I think you're the only one out of the three that has a true algorithm. The other guys are they go on intuition, data, that kind of stuff. Your algorithm, how close have you had a chance to track it through the years? By the end of the season, how close are you think?
Yeah, last year we were at 70% of the teams that began the year in the top 300 ended up in the top 300 through the course of the last 14 years. Our first year was an opinion poll in 12. Since 13, we've averaged 68% of the teams that start there in that. And I just think the algorithm is really looking good because if it's matching Zach and Zach knows his crap,
there you go.
I'm good with that.
Hey, Joe, maybe
I try
Zach,
to keep it clean.
Hey, Joe, maybe Zach is the algorithm.
Let's not get carried away, man. I've had my misses over the years. So,
Joe, now you are the outlier at number one. You're really high on Coach Masai Halamariam. So why do you have St. Francis at number one?
Well, he feels, in speaking with him, that this could be his best team ever. The amount of talent he's acquired during the offseason is, if not, number one in the country, top three as far as turnover goes. And the main point, they're road warriors. Normally, each and every year, they're going out of the 10 or 11 games they play, probably 8 or 9 are on the road. This year, he has 4 or 5 home games.
Yeah.
So I'm giving, that to me is going to be a benefit too. So I think they're going to be fresher than they've ever been. They're going to be more powerful. So yeah, and again, my 1 versus 2 is going to happen too. But it's going to be happening towards the end of the season, not the first week of the season like Zach and Jeff's.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, listen, all three of you gave some very, very good reasons why you got your teams at number one. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a long season. All these national teams usually play brutal schedules. So I'm interested to see how close you guys are in matching these preseason number ones with the final ranking. So Jeff, let's talk about Bishop Gorman out of Nevada. You got him slotted at number 2.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of talent, year in and year out. I mean, they have as much talent as they do uniform combinations. What are they up to, Zach? I saw somebody wrote a story. 8,000.
It's a good amount. It's a good amount, man. You can't count them on 2 hands and 2 feet. So
it's crazy. But what I'm looking forward to seeing, and I don't know how Zach feels about this, but with the changes in Nevada this year, with the Clark County schools, all 30 of them pulling out. So that's like the Liberties, the last team to actually knock off Gorman and take a state title there in the biggest classification. They're not in the mix. So, they're going to be playing some of these other private schools. I'm not saying that they're at the same level as Bishop Gorman, because Bishop Gorman is, A++++. But it'll be interesting to see what that, schedule results in. They always have a little bit of a problem in our algorithm because they play that tough or out-of-state schedule, whatever you want to call it, interstate games. And then they get into state, and the state does not rank that high, obviously. And it kind of hurts them a little bit in the algorithm. So it'll be interesting. And then there's all the big question at the end of the year. There's a lot of talk about, will overtime come back with a format? There's money being bandied around like it's some sort of a federal deficit type of conversation. But it'll be interesting to see if somebody can pull something off at the end of the year where Gorman, who should run the table in Nevada and win another championship, I think 16 in the last 17 years, see if they get a shot at a significant team down the road. But there's a whole lot of conversation before that even comes about.
Absolutely. Zach, listen, you had Bishop Gorman at the final year in rankings. They were record was 11-1, and MaxPreps had them finishing the year at number 3. Yeah. Why are you elevating them to number 2 this year?
Last year they would have had a good chance, to finish the year at number 1 if they just would have won that game they barely lost against Mater Dei. They would have went undefeated. They would have had wins against Santa Margarita, Mater Dei, and some other big time programs. But yeah, like Jeff said, this year I think it's key for them. They play Bosco to start the year, second game of the year for them, and then they play Mater Dei. But I think it'll be, if they're undefeated, they're going to have a good chance to finish the year at number 1. But it will help them if they play in that overtime playoff system, whatever you want to call it, because that'll give them another marquee game against arguably an IMG or St. Francis Academy, a team like that. But, Coach Browner's done an outstanding job with the Gales since he took over as head coach there. He's brought Bishop Gorman back to relevance. They had a couple of tough years before he came back, obviously kind of 2013 to 16, they had their great run. And now you see Gorman back up to that level. And they got this kid, Zyron Menor. I think he's a receiver to watch in the class of 2028. I think he's going to have a monster year for the Gales, and I just like what they got in the trenches. And they also got a very good secondary led by Hayden Stepp, 2027 Oregon commit.
Joe, you got IMG Academy out of Bradenton, Florida. Listen, you got 4 Florida teams in your top 20 this year. IMG is the highest ranked one. What do you like about this team?
Like we talked about with St. Francis, the accumulation of talent during the offseason is as good as it gets. They just today acquired Bergen Catholic's top defensive player who's headed to Notre Dame. So, they're just adding players of 4 or 5-star status. So, they've been proven. If you look at their record over the last 5 years, they're always there. Once in a while, they'll have a hiccup. But I just think that, player for player, if you compare that roster to any other roster, them and St. Francis are atop anybody's list of best teams.
Joe, are you concerned at all about, the last 5 years, this is their 3rd head coach. So are you concerned about that?
No, because the program's very transactional.
Okay.
Players come and go, coaches come and go. The facilities are still there. The coaching is real good. And it's a job. People come there, not to go to prom or not to win a state title. Their job is to win a national championship each and every year.
Jeff, this leads into your number 3. We're on IMG Academy. You've got them slotted number 3.
Yeah, and a lot of what Joe said there. I mean, I think the one consistency when it comes to the coaching question is, Kyle Bray, who, basically is the GM of the program, if you will, from the national team down to the other 2 teams. He's the consistent guy there. And I like him a lot as a person. And I love his, kind of vision for the program itself. They play that schedule that's, undeniably one of the best in the country. I'd like to see a couple more teams take them on. I think that would make it a little bit easier in the algorithm. The thing that hurts them in our algorithm rankings, and they did win the national championship during the COVID year in 2021. And that's because, of course, the Trinity League in Southern California played just 5 games. They didn't play until the spring. But, I think what hurts them is they, do not play for a state championship. And it's kind of funny, and maybe we could talk about this. It's very interesting to me, and I think we all know this. They are eligible to play for a state championship in Florida if they only had one program.
They choose not to.
Yeah, they choose
not to because each and every year the national team would make the playoffs and the blue and white wouldn't, and that's not fair.
Right. And the Florida High School Athletic Association says you can only have one team to go into it. The reason I say it's interesting, and I don't know how you feel about this, Zach, but with the open division coming to Florida, obviously it's a business model for IMG. I don't think they're going to drop 2 teams. It's not in the business model. But boy, how good would it be with an open division now if just the national team were to qualify for the playoffs? That dogfight in Florida would be the most insane high school football to watch anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, that open division is going to be great, even without IMG, but then you throw an IMG Academy in there. I mean, yeah, it's hard to argue that there'd be any playoff bracket tougher than that. Every year it's the CIF Southern Section D1 bracket with the Mater Dei Bosco, Santa Margarita, Corona Centennial. But that Florida open division, it's going to have the 8 top teams in the state of Florida battling it out for that state title. That's going to be huge. That's going to have huge implications when it comes to even deciding who finishes number 1. Because if you win that playoff bracket, that's going to carry a lot of weight.
And no pressure on the MaxPreps rankings there.
I know. Right? No pressure. No pressure.
Hey, guys, the great news is that at the top, everybody plays each other or close to it.
Yeah. So I love it about you 3. You're not afraid to jump in and scrap it. And you guys really defend your picks pretty well. So with that said, Zach, we move just right down the road to your number 3 spot, that's St. Thomas Aquinas. You know, for the last 11 years, Roger Harris has had a very, very stable program. You expect some big things out of them this year as well.
Yeah, I mean, they have so many guys coming back. You know, Mark Matthews, headline in the offensive line, 5-star Texas A&M commit. He's the absolute stud. I think the big question mark for Aquinas is going to be quarterback play. You know, that's going to be the one question mark for them because they're stacked at every other position. You know, Julius Jones, this guy's been making plays since he's a freshman. He's committed to Notre Dame, the same college that his dad started at, and then he went on to play in the NFL, Julius Jones. So they got playmakers everywhere. If they get a quarterback that's playing just solid football this year, I'd expect them to run the table and be the favorites in the Florida Open Division. They start the year off with a couple of tough games. I'm looking forward to that DeSoto matchup. You get Florida versus Texas early in the season. That's always fun. And, you know, Claude Mathis, he's a great head coach. DeSoto's always a well-run program. And they got Sherrod Baker there. So that's going to be a fun matchup to watch August 29th, I believe. So,
yeah, my problem with them is that's the only tough game on the schedule, in my opinion. They got Madonna down the road. I get it.
Yeah.
But Madonna, what was the final score of Madonna St. Francis last year?
It wasn't pretty. It was a running clock.
So again, that's my problem. Why I wasn't going to start them that high.
Yeah,
because odds are if they beat DeSoto, they're going to go undefeated. That's just my feeling. And it's got to be a tougher road to get to number 1 than that.
Yeah, but you get to that open division now. Now you're talking about, you know, a real dogfight.
Yeah, I get it.
As the only guy that was smart enough or dumb enough, depending, you know, the people across the road here in Beaufort in Georgia, where I live, are not happy with me. But we had St. Francis or St. Thomas Academy as our national champs last year. So, you know, we'll see. But I do think, and I've heard this, and I think we've all heard it. I've heard, and this is a big statement from some people that really know, and this is not from within the program itself, this team may be the best they've ever had. And like Zach said, if they find a quarterback that just does the job, right, they're not going to have to have a 5-star quarterback.
That's saying something, man. That's saying something because
that's a big statement.
I mean, Aquinas is arguably the most well-known program in the entire country. They produced the who's who, most NFL players right up there. They've had some great teams that finished number 1. So that's saying something right there. You know,
it was a respected voice. It wasn't someone that just likes to pontificate and say something to get clicks or noticed or whatever. It was like, really? And they've got a lot of talent coming back.
Guys, let's not forget what Creekside did to DeSoto last year.
Yeah,
so,
it was, yeah.
You know, if Aquinas does the same thing to DeSoto that Creekside did, it's not really gonna help them, quite honestly.
Well, Joe, on the flip side, I mean, if they run the table, even if they have a mostly soft schedule in the regular season, they run the table, get to the open division, and win the championship there, doesn't that propel them pretty good ways?
It could. My attitude is all roads to a Florida Natty have to go through IMG.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's my attitude.
If you're in the Florida Open Division, you beat Heritage first round, then you beat like a Miami Central, then you beat like a Carroll City, a Chaminade Madonna. Like those are like 3 straight big time quality wins in the playoff. That holds a lot of weight. Obviously IMG plays a national schedule, but they don't play in a playoff system, which those games have a lot more weight than just a regular game during the regular season.
Yeah, but I would say that beating St. Francis is holds more weight than beating any of those 3 teams that they have to beat. Yeah. And if IMG beats St. Francis or St. Francis beats IMG and they're undefeated at the end of the season, it's going to be hard to knock them out.
I'll say this though, obviously I love Masai. He's a great head coach. Mm-hmm. St. Francis wants to play everybody, but I feel like this year's schedule for St. Francis is probably maybe the lightest it's been in a little bit. And I don't think that's his fault. I think it's just hard for them to find games at times, but really their only really tough game maybe against Bryant, but obviously the IMG game at the end of the year.
And that's why we have him number 6 in the algorithm, because of exactly what Zach said there. And I think it is just a matter of, and you know this, Joe, helping put games together. No one wants to play him.
Yeah, I'm never going to penalize them because I know they reach out to all these top teams in your guys' top 5.
Yeah,
and they won't play them. Bishop Gorman will not play IMG or St. Francis in the regular season, and Mater Dei and St. John Bosco and Aquinas has. So I'm not rewarding that type of behavior at the top.
Why is that, guys? Because all these guys have top, stellar, blue chip athletes. So why are they ducking St. Francis?
Got to ask them.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough.
Yep, got to ask them. I've been told that the only way Gorman will play St. Francis is if it's in a postseason event for a national championship ramification.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, Joe, since we're on you, let's go to your number 3. Now, these guys had the Braves up there at number 1. You've got them at number 3. What do you see differently about St. John Bosco than these two guys?
I just think in my mind, it's if they were to play each other, who would win? And this season, I just feel that those first two teams would beat them in a one-on-one battle, head-to-head battle. Bosco, they got to go through a lot of great teams. If they're standing at the end undefeated, and those other two teams have losses, obviously they're gonna be the number 1 contender for that MNC.
Yeah, but here's my question too. They run the table. That's a 15-0, right? Versus teams that may go 9-0 or 10-0, and if they get maybe into an overtime situation there with a playoff game, maybe that's 11-0. I mean, you're talking about 4 more games, arguably against better competition. I think if you run the table in the Trinity League, which means you're then running the table in the CIF Southern Section Division 1.
Yep.
On top of beating Gorman, and I mean, I don't know. Just saying.
That's why it's nice that we all have our own rankings where it's like
right. I believe I'm the only pollster that mandates their national champion to be undefeated. So if Bosco loses, they're out. If Gorman loses, they're out. If Aquinas loses, they're out. If IMG, they're out. They're all
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
I play it different every year. Obviously there might be a team that has 1 loss that's clearly better than a team that's undefeated. Where I feel like you just got to be an open book and just judge each year differently and just have, there's a lot of stuff that can happen too.
Yeah.
Like last year, I feel like St. Francis Academy was just as good as anybody, but the one game that they did lose was that Bosco game. So it was hard for them to really finish the year at number 1 when you had a Buford 15-0 in Georgia.
Yep, exactly.
Well, this is a fascinating debate. It really is. And what really stands out to me with all 3 of you, I mean, you've got basically the same teams in the top 5. You just have some nuanced differences why you put 1 at 3 and 1 versus at 1 at 4 and that kind of stuff. So with that said, Jeff, you've got St. Thomas Aquinas at number 4. So there's not much difference between your Bishop Gorman and St. Thomas Aquinas. So why do you have Aquinas at 4?
No, I think it goes back to what Joe said with the DeSoto kind of butt whooping they got against Creekside last year from Atlanta. Yeah. And while DeSoto went on, I mean, they regrouped in a big way, running the table and winning the state championship in Texas. That kind of hurts them in that strength of schedule a little bit. But again, I believe in this team. They were our national champs last year. I stand behind it. I'm good friends with Brian Appling. I covered him at Lehigh University back in the late 90s, 2000 era. He knows it. I'm a marked man across Georgia. But, that being said, and again, going back to my earlier point, if they run the table and then run the table in the open division, they will be as, worthy as anybody to get a national championship.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just feel, like I said, with DeSoto, they lost to St. Francis by 40 a couple of years ago. And then last year with Creekside, the luster's a little, are they even top 5 in Texas to start the year? I don't know. So even if Aquinas blows them out, there's really, I'm looking at the schedule right now, Dillard, Western, McCarthy, MacArthur, Monarch. I mean, that's,
I'll say this though, if you have a cupcake schedule like that, but then you still win the open division, like
as long as you're winning those games by 40,
it's not
like
a cupcake though, Joe. They are teams in my top 300. I'm not saying that's the be all and end all, but I think to call it a cupcake is my pushing a little bit there.
You got Chaminade in the where do you am at 14? So that'd be a nice quality win for Aquinas if they can beat Chaminade. Chaminade, that's another intriguing team this year because obviously Tora Wallace went over to Carroll City, and a lot of top kids from Chaminade. Chaminade's still loaded, so they're still going to be really good. But a lot of their top guys kind of over at Carroll City now, so it's going to be fun.
And we're going to see early on how Chaminade does in the Broward event.
Yeah, Sierra Canyon. That's Sierra Canyon's defensive line, no joke, man. Marcus Vacato, stud. They got a bunch of other guys too. Stephen Harrison, he's a class of 2029 guy. He's going to be a big time guy.
That's my sleeper, man. I mean, I remember when we were living out in LA back in 2000, and Sierra Canyon's an 8-man program. Very good one, but they were an 8-man program. And now in 2026, that's my sleeper to do some big things in Southern California.
Yeah, John Ellinghaus, man. Talk about the job he's done at Sierra Canyon. I mean, he's built that program up. You know, obviously they got to win the big one and win that D1 bracket to be kind of considered with the Boscos, Mater Deis, and Corona Centennials, and even Santa Margaritas now. But, you know, every year you can kind of depend on Sierra Canyon being one of the top teams in SoCal.
Good stuff. So, Zach, you're a big Masai fan, Coach Masai fan. So you got him at number 4 this year.
Yeah, you know, they lost a very good group. You know, they had some studs last year. Jair Edwards, one of the best defensive back prospects I've seen during my time working at MaxPreps. You know, obviously Zion Ely. Like Joe said, though, every year, you know, St. Francis is going to have some dudes. They got Anthony Sweeney to come on over from Good Counsel. He's a 5-star for a reason. They got a couple of good quarterbacks, but they got Sean Merriman's son playing quarterback. He'll probably get in.
And Zach, they're going to add players.
Yeah,
up until August 28th.
Yeah, well, like we saw with IMG getting Jackson Vaughn earlier today, they're both going to add some guys. I think last time I saw, IMG had 28 players that are rated as a 3-star or higher, and the majority of those guys are 4 and 5 stars. So it's not your typical 3 stars. But yeah, you know, with Masai, you just know St. Francis Academy, they're going to be right there in consideration for the number 1 spot at the end of the year. You know, last season they finished year ranked at number 2. And if they run the table, beat IMG, get back in the overtime, whatever you call it, overtime playoffs, I don't know what they're called. But, you know, that could get some more quality wins for them, which would be huge for St. Francis. And who knows, there could be a chance they play Bishop Gorman in that playoff format if it comes to fruition.
Yep.
So, Joe, listen, you are committed to the G as in Bishop Gorman. Listen, guys, if you're a Georgia fan watching this program, don't come at me. I'm a Georgia fan as well. I'm just using play on words. But you are committed to the G in Bishop Gorman, Joe. They've got, you know, the first 5 games, they've got some couple of badasses, if you will, right? In St. John Bosco and Mater Dei. So you love Bishop Gorman.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if they win out, and one of my top 2 teams is going to have a loss, so they're going to be right there. And when I talk to Coach Browner, I tell him he knows what I look for in my top team. We talked about it in past years when other polls had him number 1 and I didn't. So, but they're in a great position to do what they have to do to get an Natty again.
Absolutely.
Remember, everybody above them is playing each other, or they're playing them, or there's tangentially there's relation there.
Little sidebar, little devil's advocate. What if IMG and St. Francis don't play this year again?
Well, then they both, just like last year, they both missed out. Yep.
It's crazy because last year if they would have just played each other, you know, the winner of that game would have had a legit argument.
Yeah, and you know that was all IMG.
Yeah,
they canceled. So
I get it though, but you know, the dates. There's a lot that goes into it, but that's tough to have a date and then it's all of a sudden going to be a month after the season, especially.
I know, but this year, remember at this time last year, nobody knew about the overtime opportunity. Now everybody does.
Yeah, 100%.
Have you guys, either one of you, in your history of you're doing the polls, have any of you guys ever done a co-national champion?
No.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
You have, Jeff.
My first year, because I was chicken, I think. It was Alan and a
Jeff,
guy.
what was that, 1955?
Oh, thank you very much, Joe. Anyway, I did hear Larry curse, so I could use some curse words, but I'll keep it clean. There was a guy named Kyler Murray at Allen, his first of 3 national championships for us. But that was our opinion poll, and we also added a very good John Curtis out of Louisiana that year. But again, I'm just going to go with I was chicken or stupid. So,
Jeff,
if I poke fun at myself, no one else can.
And I think, remember Bosco and Trinity were close in a couple of polls back in the toll years. Yeah.
Well, Jeff, I cannot wait for you to give us your reasons for moving to Georgia. You've got Buford, Big Bad Buford, the Wolves, out of Buford, Georgia, at number 5. Guys, look, every year it just seems like California, Texas, Florida, and Georgia is making a big play in recent history, right? So Buford is at the top of the list. Now, Jeff, the thing about Buford is with their state championship last year in Georgia, they've run the table in winning a state championship in every class they've played in. And so last year was significant because it's the first time they won a championship in the highest class that they were assigned to, right? So why do you have Buford at number 5 this year?
And they're going for, since 7A is back in Georgia, they can make it a 7A too and have another little first there. Well, as I've been joking all along, we did not have them as our national champ last year. They were the number 1 public school in the nation. And quite honestly, one of the biggest reason was they did not have an out-of-state opponent last year. They had played them up until that point. They did not last year. Georgia's as good as it comes. I think pound for pound, they're the best state right now when it comes to, if you take the number of schools, the population, people going on to Power 4 or 5, whatever we're calling it these days, going on to the NFL. Georgia's the place to be. And for some reason, Coach Appling, whether they couldn't schedule out-of-state opponents last year or not.
No, they tried, Jeff.
Okay.
I mean, they're one of my clients. They tried hard.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, like with St. Francis and IMG, a lot of teams don't want to play them.
Yeah. And they are a great program. There's no doubt about it. Coach App is one of the best in the nation. I say he's been listening to me. I just gave an interview here in Atlanta where I was razzed about Buford, and they've got a very good Miami Central team on the schedule this year, and a very good Mallard Creek team on the schedule from North Carolina. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But you could put all of those top 6 teams, I believe, and you could probably take it a little bit deeper, and all of those teams in the top 10, if you put them in a hat and shake them up on any given Friday night, they could all, have a national championship. So, we have fun with the preseason rankings. Again, the algorithm is designed to analyze what happens on the field.
Jeff,
hey, Larry, if I can jump in, what I'm looking forward to is Buford playing on the road at Mallard Creek.
Yeah.
You don't see Buford traveling out of state that often.
So I've got a question for Jeff. Jeff, you're a little bit closer follower of Georgia football than your 2 counterparts, I believe. So with Buford and the state of Georgia, Georgia for all classes starting this year has changed their playoff postseason format in the way they seed teams. In the past, you had 8 regions, top 4 teams in each region make the playoffs. That's gone.
Yeah.
Now they've got a complicated postseason ranking formula that really kind of puts a premium on wins, and we see a lot of teams across the state of Georgia schedule kind of weaker opponents in their non-region part of the schedule. But Buford did not do that. Did that surprise you?
Yeah, and you know what? I haven't gotten into the nuts and bolts of it. Like if that out-of-state opponent is weighted the same way, that's a question for way above my pay grade. But I think that if it is, then they've done the thing that they should do. I know some states do take that into consideration if you're playing a tough out-of-state opponent. But if they're not, it could harm them. But this team is deep enough to do whatever it is. But I will say one thing as it relates to our algorithm and the chance for a Georgia team to be a national champ. And we did have Colquitt County in 2015 as our national champ. It's going to help them. Having a tougher 7A bracket is definitely going to help them when it comes to all the information once the games get started playing. And if you run the table and win a state championship in 7A, you are as good as it comes in America.
That's right. So Zach and Joe, you've got Buford in your top 10 as well, and we'll get your justification in a second. But Zach, you've got IMG Academy at your number 5 spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think every year IMG is going to find themselves ranked in the top 5 at
Mhm.
some spot. But yeah, talent wise, they're right up there with anybody. I love Jaden Wade at quarterback. He's a 2028 Georgia commit. He went to IMG as an 8th grader, got varsity snaps. I mean, this is a guy who's been playing big time quarterback for the Ascenders, and I think he's going to have his best year yet. They got a couple of stud wide receivers, Eric McFarland III, Asani Gales. They're absolutely loaded, big time on the offensive line, defensive line. They already had a great defensive line, and then you added Jackson Vaughn, who's a 4-star Notre Dame commit. This is a dude. He was MaxPreps freshman All-American, MaxPreps sophomore All-American. He reclassed up, so technically he should be a junior this coming year, but he's going to be a senior, and I think he's going to have a huge year for IMG.
Yep.
Wow. Man, that's pretty good. I'm just impressed with all 3 of your detailed knowledge of these teams, why you ranked them the way that you did. So with that said, Joe, you got St. Thomas Aquinas at your number 5.
Yeah, we touched upon them already. They're going to have great opportunity to move up as the year goes on, especially at the end of the season.
Yeah. So Joe brings up a good point. You guys got basically the same teams, and I'm just want to be respectful of your times. So we just took about 45 minutes talking about the top 5. So now what we're going to do is transition to a segment where you talk about, number 6 through number 10, respectively, in each of your polls, if you don't mind, just to kind of quicken up the pace of this conversation. So, Jeff, we'll start with you. Take a look at your 6 through 10. Are there any teams that kind of surprised you, or maybe with a little bit of win here or there, it wouldn't surprise you to see any of these teams jump into the top 5?
No, that's what I was saying earlier. Put them all in one hat, shake them up, and it could come out anyway. What Carson Palmer's done at Santa Margarita, we all know about that last year, what they did. They're no longer the surprise team, right? Everybody knows what they've got. I look for Joey King at Carrollton to maybe make that next move. They've been, the bridesmaid a lot. I can see that happening. Matt Logan at Corona Centennial, drop the mic. He's one of those Mount Rushmore type of coaches.
Yep.
It doesn't matter what he loses, when he loses it. And last year he beat Mater Dei twice. That's a team that I love. And then you got Mater Dei. You can't count out the Monarchs. They've won 5 of our national titles. I know a bunch for Zach, and I think Joe, you might have had him once or twice.
I did.
These are just really the creme de la creme. And I mean, the fact that they appear on, MaxPreps Game of the Week or Joe's on Flow. I mean, when you get a chance to watch these high schools play, and forget about if they're going to, the next level to play on Saturdays and Sundays, they're just damn good high school football games.
Yeah, absolutely. Zach, we'll do the same for you, man. 6 through 10, anything sticks out? You've got Mater Dei at number 9. Let me ask you about the Monarchs there. Like Jeff was talking about, they're no slouch when it comes to the national rankings, right? And we've had them ranked number 1 for, it seems like, forever. But last year, it just seemed like there was a chink in their armor. Are they going through a cycle of athletes where they're slightly not as good, or other teams are rising to their level?
It's funny because everyone was kind of starting to write Mater Dei off. You look back at last year; they had the 3 losses, but they're all winnable games.
Yeah, Zach, they had like two bad halves in the whole season.
They went to Bishop Gorman, won in Vegas. So I don't buy into that Mater Dei's falling off. I don't buy into that one bit. Coach Lara is doing a tremendous job there. I think Mater Dei's a little different now the way they operate, though, as opposed to what they're doing a few years ago. They don't have all the 5 and 4-star big-time recruits. They're kind of have their own guys, and they're building their own guys up now. And I think, in the long run, I think that's going to be good for Mater Dei. They have one of the toughest schedules this year, so we'll find out. I can't wait for that game against Corona Centennial on September 11th. Corona Centennial is a team I'm very high on this year. Every year with Logan, they're right in the mix, but they bring back a lot of guys, and I'm really looking forward to the combo they got with Jaden Jefferson at quarterback and Quentin Hell at wide receiver. They transferred over from Cathedral High School out in LA. I think they're going to have a huge year for Centennial because they bring back a lot of big-time guys, and you add those 2 guys in the mix. I think there's a chance, Matt Logan's squad could actually run the table and finish this year at number 1. They have a pretty tough schedule early on. They play Santa Margarita, they play Mater Dei, and then if they win that CIF Southern Section D1 bracket, Centennial's going to have a chance to be in the mix. I think they're going to be a big dog in the race this year.
And Zach, one thing about Mater Dei, they're very selective with transfers. Every major transfer in the Trinity League this year, has gone through Mater Dei or attempted to, they've all spoken to the same teams. They're uber selective in who they bring in from the outside. So they've had the same opportunities to bring all these great transfers in, but they a lot of the times they reject them. They reject their advances, and these teams end up going to other teams in the Trinity League. That's just that's important, and that says a lot about the program.
Yeah, and let's not forget they're still kind of pulling away from. I'm a big Rollo fan, Bruce Rollinson, another Hall of Fame guy up on the Mount Rushmore. I mean, okay, so he leaves. Next year they win another natty with us, and I think with everybody else. And then Coach Lara comes in. So it's time. After a coach has been there for 3 decades, you got to have a little something that goes down. I think we saw that with Coach Saban, right? But to me, and I think you said this, Zach, Coach Lara is one of the best. Remember what he did at Long Beach Poly, and then he did it at these smaller programs too that had no tradition, and he was able to build them up. I just say, much like Zach, hey, stop the death certificates from going out in the mail. Mater Dei ain't going nowhere.
No.
Well, I'm glad you guys put that notion to rest.
You know how it is, man. You know how people get, you talk big on Twitter, but you're sitting in your mom's basement, like people talk a big game on social media because they're trying to be cool and say what they think. Mater Dei is not going anywhere. Mater Dei is still going to be one of the premier programs, not just in California, but in the entire country. I don't care what some 35-year-old man saying that still lives at home in his basement. So
you think it's just a case of people love to hate the winners?
Yeah.
Haters only hate the greats.
Yeah. Hey, there's a saying going, man. If you ain't got no haters, you ain't popping. So,
well, Joe, speaking of greats, and I'm talking about just pure interview. You and I had a chance to interview Maurice Dixon, head coach at Creekside last year, and I'm highlighting them because they're in your top 10. You can talk about your ranking 6 through 10, but he made a statement last year that I still remember a year later. His goal, I asked him, what's your goal for your program? Why are you scheduling all these national teams? He says, because I want Creekside to be mentioned with the likes of Mater Dei and St. John Bosco. Do you think he's well on his way, and is that why you got him ranked at number 10?
Hell yeah. Have you been watching that documentary? There's a beautiful documentary. They've had 2 episodes so far. It's breaking the internet. Yeah, they called me several years ago. They wanted to play the best. We sent them the Mater Dei. They got drilled, and they're like 50-4 since that game. So yeah, they're going to be, as long as he's around, they're going to be a perennial top 25 team in my opinion. But if you look at my numbers 6 through 11, it shows you the respect I have for California and Georgia.
Yeah,
I got 2 teams from Georgia in that group, and I have 4 teams from California between 7 and 11.
Yeah,
California, in my opinion, has been the best high school football state, for a while, especially at the top. Yeah. If you go back the last 5 or 10 years and took Cali's top 3 teams and you played any other state's top 3 teams, nobody's winning 2 out of 3 out of Cali. Cali's winning 2 out of 3 across every state, in my opinion. There's a log jam here. So, but it'll all play out. Thank God, California has a really good playoff system where all the best are going to play each other for the most part. So, yeah, I mean, Buford's right there. I love that they're traveling. They're going to be playing at Mallard Creek. I don't remember the last time they went to a non-bordering state and played. Maybe never. Centennial, we already talked about. Creme de la creme of Power Publics. Mater Dei, again, 2 bad halves last year, or else they could have been a top 3 team. Margarita, banner year last year. If it wasn't for injuries, they could have been number 1. Creekside, we talked about, on the rise. My number 2, top 2 team in Georgia. Sierra Canyon, got to give them credit. I didn't rank them that high last season. At the start, they proved me wrong, and they slowly maneuvered their way up the final rankings. So this year, I learned. So we'll see how they do, especially against the top out-of-state teams are playing, and also the top Cali teams are playing. So yeah, I mean, it's the middle of my pack in my top 20 is Cali and Georgia.
Hey, real quick, Creekside, they got Clay Chalkville and then St. Joe's Regional, right? Like,
Yeah.
So that's a crazy back-to-back. Like that's you're playing back-to-back state champs from last year. Clay Chalkville was the best team in Alabama last year. They beat Tylerville.
And Joe's. Yeah, and a lot of people said Joe's. Yeah, a lot of people think that was an upset, but in the big, in the BNU in Jersey, any team could beat any team in a final. It doesn't matter what happened in the regular season.
Yeah, Augie Hoffman's one of the best coaches, and he was back. I agree. I'm a big Augie fan.
That's a big
absolutely.
Santa Margarita too. I mean, they got so many class of 2029 and 2030 guys, where Santa Margarita is probably going to be the best team in SoCal. They won it last year, but I think this team's got a chance to go on a great run here in the next 3 or 4 years with the young kids they have in the program right now.
Yep.
Well, Jeff, you've got a couple of Texas teams in your 11 through 15. You got a Georgia team, perennial Grayson top 25 Georgia team. But I noticed that all three of you have a team I've never heard of, Baylor, Tennessee.
Hey!
That's because you haven't heard of their running back yet.
David Gabriel George, man. Google him. He just committed to Tennessee, Ohio State fan. Sorry, I didn't mean to
listen. I believe all three of you, but is that team more than a one-man show? Is one guy elevating them into a top 20 ranking?
I'll say this too, man. Obviously, they got Keegan Croucher at quarterback this year, but Peyton Manning's son, Marshall Manning.
Okay,
you took the words right out of my mouth.
Sorry, I couldn't wait. I couldn't wait.
Listen, you've got me convinced. I'm a Baylor, Tennessee fan now.
There we go, Chattanooga, baby.
Yep. Hey guys, I have a question for you. I got in an argument with a Texas poster, a Texas poster on our forum page. He said, you know what? Whoever the number one team in Texas is, automatically they should be in anyone's top 10. And I said vehemently, no way. You got to earn it. And I'm happy to see across the board here, with the exception Zach has Duncanville at 10.
Yeah,
Jeff, you and I, your first Texas team is number 13, and mine is literally 21. It's not even on the screen. So I think what's happened to Texas is they've gotten beaten bad in big time out of state games against the elites, and they're still trying to come back from that.
Yeah. And it doesn't appear that they, except for a Duncanville and a DeSoto, Allen used to. We'll see how that comes as that program comes back. But, until they get away from that. And by the way, Texas high school football is insane. It's great at every level, from the small town aspect right up through the term, why it's Friday Night Lights and all that. But at the end of the day, you're right. They didn't do themselves any justice in those games where they got stomped a little bit, and now they're not going out. So that's kind of affecting them in our algorithm.
And it's the attitude, like that fan said. Our number one should automatically be a top 10 team in every poll. That's that attitude. And,
what fan is part, what fan's part of, right? Fanatical.
I get it. But after all those blowouts against Bosco and St. Francis and Mater Dei, you would think they'd be a little humble, but it hasn't happened.
I still respect Texas in this aspect, though. I seriously, they're one of the few states that I don't think they really care about finishing number one in anybody's poll. All they care about is winning a state title in Texas. That's their goal at the beginning of the year. I respect that. That's cool. I love that. They care about winning a state title. They're going to be remembered forever in that state and that community, and that's cool to see. I just don't think they have the same mindset as a St. John Bosco in SoCal or a St. Thomas Aquinas in Florida, where they want to finish number one in the national poll. Where I think the end goal for a lot of Texas schools is just to win a state title.
Yeah, I get it. We've all been to games there. We see the pomp and circumstance. I love it.
Great.
I love it. But to say you should be gifted a top 10 placement because of where you live or where you reside. No way. You got to earn it.
Make sure you hear what I say, Joe, because I don't want you to think I'm calling you the GOAT, but I think somebody was trying to get your GOAT with that statement.
No, not at all. Not at all. So they were honest. I know this guy's we've been going at it for years. Healthy debate is good. You know that. And just, I wanted to throw that out there because
what's your hashtag?
No cowards allowed.
That's it. Yeah.
And again, other than DeSoto this year,
Yeah.
who are they? Nobody's playing anybody of note out of state.
Yeah,
right?
I'm looking forward to
Christian, North Shore.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah,
that's the game I'm looking for.
I'm sorry, I missed that one. Who is it again?
John Curtis Christian.
That's right. That's right. I tried to get that game on Flow. So that's a good one.
So Zach, let me go back to you. You've got 11 through 15. We've talked a good bit about some of these teams on there, but one team that really stuck out to me, and Joe's got them at number 20. Carroll City, Florida, hadn't been the most stellar team in the recent history, but now you've got them all the way up there, number 11. What in the world, man?
It's funny, man. I got killed on Twitter. Like, how do you do this? They haven't proven anything. I don't care about proving anything, man. Like this year's rankings, yes, it has something to do with previous years, but not a ton. Like, this is a whole new team. You get Toro Wallace coming in. This is a guy who helped build Chaminade Madonna into what it is. Obviously, Coach Jones has done a tremendous job, but Toro Wallace has done a good job getting guys. As you see, a lot of top recruits have transferred over to Carroll City. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of the top dogs from Northwestern. Nick Lanier, a 5-star Miami commit at wide receiver. You got Malik Leonard, a class of 2029 quarterback who was at Chaminade Madonna. They got at least 10 guys from Chaminade Madonna to come over to Carroll City. You look at that defense, they added a bunch of 4 and 5 stars on all 3 levels. I think Carroll City, if they mesh well, they're going to be arguably the top dog in the state of Florida. We'll see. It's hard to get a lot of those top kids to come together and play as one, but I think Carroll City, this is a team. If you don't get them early, it's going to be tough, because I think by the time that Florida Open Division playoff starts, if their guys are healthy, I think they're going to be a tough team to beat, because I think they're going to get that team chemistry when it matters most. But yeah, I got killed on Twitter for having Carroll City ranked so high, because they went 6-5 last year. They really haven't been the program they used to be. But I think Carroll City's back this year with Toro Wallace calling the shots at it.
Yeah, and they go to Georgia twice. They're at Lee County on August 28th, which is a tough place to play for many reasons. Jeff will tell you the refs are one of them. And the second game is October 2nd, later in the season at Grayson.
That's a good one. Are you doing that? Is that on Flow or what's?
Yeah, those are both Flow games.
Yeah, those are great games.
And by the way, I need to point out here that while you may have gotten blown up on Twitter, because of you, I got blown up as well, being like, you don't know what Zach knows. So take it with a grain of salt. People are loving you for it. They're hating me for it. By the way, they're number 456 in my ranking. So we're going to see how stupid I am once again.
We've already established the fact that Zach is the algorithm, right? So
we'll see, man.
Joe, listen, when we start to get through 11 through 20, that kind of stuff, that's when you guys really start to separate. You have different teams slotted in those positions. Now, Joe, out of all 3 of you, the state of Alabama gets very little love in the top 20, right? So it's between really Thompson, Alabama, and you've got Clay, Chalkville, Alabama at number 15. Who's the top dog in Alabama?
Well, I think Clay, obviously, because I have him ranked the highest. I do have Thompson first 5 out. So, and I've gotten to know Alabama high school football very, very well over the last 5 years. My son is going to be a senior at Auburn, so I'm down there a lot. I'm a season ticket holder for the Tigers, so I'm down there a lot. I go to a lot of games, and to me, they're preseason top 25 worthy. That's for sure. And we're gonna know really quickly on August 21st when they go to Creekside and try to compete with the Seminoles.
That's right. Well, guys, we're going to round this out pretty quickly here. Jeff, you got 16 through 20, but what if you want to talk about any of those teams, you're welcome to do that. But you know your rankings outside the top 20. Are there any teams that really stick out to you this year, whether it's 16 through 20 or maybe 21 through 25, whatever, that you are looking to make major gains in the rankings, but they just haven't proven themselves in the preseason yet to be elevated in the top 20?
Yeah, and again, the algorithm thing, screws things up a little bit because you can't really do that properly. But I guess if I were to pick a couple, as Joe said, St. Joseph Regional, I like that a lot. Roman Catholic out of Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, a big opening slate. I mean, they've got one of the toughest schedules in the nation, playing in the Philadelphia Catholic League's Red Division. So just to give you an idea, let's see, Roman Catholic's 31. We've got St. Joe's. They're clicking in just outside the top 25 at 33. I think the other two, and I'm going to try and win back some Georgia fans here. We've got Thomas County Central, which is a great team, a lot coming back. 44. They were the 5A champs last year. They'll play in 6A this year. Clay Chalkville, Thompson, toss up between those two back and forth. And then the one that I would say that's on the outside that I would pick as my sleeper would be Gainesville out of Georgia. And that's because Coach Santavius Bryant is taking over for Josh Niblett, who moves on to the college ranks. Coach Bryant, I think, is one of the greatest young coaches in the nation. He did marvelous things at Grayson. He's got a lot to work with at Gainesville, money and more. And that would be my sleeper. They're number 56 on our preseason rank.
And Jeff, two points, Jeff and Larry. Let's talk about Roman Catholic. They're 3 out-of-state games. I think if it's not their first 3 games, it's 3 out of the first 4 is at St. John Bosco, Don Bosco, at the Matha. That's crazy, those 3 games.
Yep.
Also, Gainesville, Georgia is in my top 20 because of Coach Bryant.
Yeah.
If he was still at Grayson would be in my top 20. He's the X factor why Gainesville is in my top 20 and Grayson is on the outside looking in.
Hey, I'll tell you this too, with Gainesville, man, Kareem Hughley, that kid throws the ball as well as any quarterback in the country. We were there last year. They lost this game. We did the Carrollton game, but that dude is impressive. He can throw the pill, man. He's a stud. And Gainesville plays Buford to open the year. So right off the bat, you get that big time game. I believe that's going to be on ESPN, but that should be a fun one at Buford's $60 million stadium. So
yeah. So Zach, I want to ask you a specific question about your 16 through 20. I think we've covered American Heritage, the Allen Eagles. They're a stalwart there in Texas, but Carrollton, Georgia, at number 20, and they're a legit top 20. But if you're a Georgia high school football fan, let me restate this question. How important is it for head coach Joey King to win a state championship there at Carrollton? He's knocked on the door several times in the last few years, but can't seem to quite get over that threshold.
I'll tell you this, man. I think he's going to win at least one with CJ Cypher. He was a freshman last year. He's splitting time at quarterback, started every game. I think he'll get at least one with CJ Cypher over the next few years. Carrollton's got some studs, man, especially in the class of 2028 and class of 2029. I think Carrollton's going to be in the mix. Obviously last year, if they beat Buford, they finished the year at number 1 for us. So it was super close. I think they're going to run it back this year. I think they're going to have a chance, and I wouldn't be shocked if they're playing in another state title game this year. They're absolutely loaded. Joey King is one of the best coaches, not just in Georgia, but the entire country. He's proven it with Trevor Lawrence at Cartersville, had a little time in college. Now he's back in high school at Carrollton. I think Carrollton's going to be a team to mess with this year in the state of Georgia. It should be fun. I also want to talk about Allen. I think Allen's going to be – I think they're going to be back to what they used to be with the Kyler Murray days. They got Ty Snell at quarterback. He's a class of 2029 guy, only going to be a sophomore. But I think they are the most complete team in the state of Texas this year. When you look at them offensively and defensively, they play Duncanville on August 28th. They also play DeSoto early in the season. They got a tough schedule to start. So that's going to be a fun team to watch this year out in the Dallas area. Absolutely. They
got a nice stadium too.
They're pretty nice. Yeah, it's not bad. Like that's the original Taj Mahal. Yeah, Kyler Murray's like, hey, guys, I'm just going to go train here at my old high school here because this stadium is probably better than most NFL facilities I'm training at. So
absolutely. Joe, you want to round us out your 16 through 20?
Yeah, I respect East St. Louis like no other. They're the prototypical Prep Gridiron Logistic client. Since day one, we've been working with them, and they want to play the best, whether it's IMG or Miami Central or Bishop Gorman or St. John Bosco. They'll play anybody. They're going to Florida this year to play American Heritage. They got a lot of really quality. They're starting out with Mount Carmel in the state of Illinois.
That's a great game right there.
Yeah. Yep. So they're playing St. Joe's. Are they playing St. Joe's Prep? No. They have 3. If you look at their schedule, the first 3 games of the year, they're some of the hardest that we've discussed tonight. Baylor, we talked about the running back. Gainesville, obviously, my respect for Coach Bryant has them at number 18. Basha, I can't wait to see how they do at Orange Lutheran early in September. They're always a top team. Carroll City, we discussed. The one team that I had a hard time with, I wanted to put them in, but I didn't pull the trigger, but they'll have the opportunity to get in our top 20 quickly, is Mount Carmel out of Illinois.
Yeah.
Game 1 is East St. Louis, and game 2 is against number 12 St. Joe's Regional on ESPN. So if they win those 2 games, they'll be in. But I just had a hard time starting them in the top 20.
Gotcha. Well, guys, we're going to round this out. I'm going to ask you to comment on something Zach said a while ago. He was talking about the facilities at Allen. And, some of these high school programs across the country are plowing a lot of money into their facilities. Like, I just read an article in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. I think it was either today or earlier this week, where they wrote an article about all the indoor practice facilities that's being built in the state of Georgia, and it's probably being built nationwide. To give you an example of the commitment, one of you brought up Thomas County Central, a rising program in the state of Georgia, second highest class. Man, they just opened up their indoor facility with the price tag of $25 million for an indoor facility. So are we in a modern day arms race in high school football?
I'm not getting myself in trouble, so
only in certain states. Come on, we all know the states that
Texas and Georgia are the top 2 when it comes to having the best of the best when it comes to facilities.
And Zach, what's the common denominator in those 2 states? There are no power privates; it's all publics.
Yeah,
that dominate.
So I'm from Pennsylvania, and let's put this in perspective. Our indoor practice facility is known as a gym. They also play basketball in that gym.
Yeah, checks out.
And Larry, Larry, let me add, because I just it skipped my mind before when we were talking about East St. Louis. First 3 games of the season: Mount Carmel, American Heritage, and Gainesville, Georgia. Come on, that's a tremendous schedule. That's why when somebody plays the best, they're rewarded in the preseason.
What do you think they're going to go in those 3 games?
I think if anybody beats them, it'll be Heritage down in Broward.
Yeah,
I could see them going 2-1. I could see them beating Gainesville in East St. Louis, and it's neutral site is versus Mount Carmel. That can go anyway, but I could see them going 2-1.
Yeah, that's fun though. The top 2 teams in the state of Illinois right off the bat.
Yeah,
just
like Gainesville and Beaufort, very similar.
Yeah.
Well, guys, that's going to wrap us up for tonight's. I guess it's becoming an annual edition of the top pollsters for National High School Football. And I want to say thank you to all 3 of you guys. You're well respected. It was a very lively conversation. You said a lot of things that I expected to say, but you also challenged each other with some of your justifications as well. So well done, guys. Thank you so much for appearing on the show tonight.
Thanks for having us all, man. We appreciate it.
Yeah, our pleasure. It's always an honor being in these guys' presence.
Absolutely. So, guys, enjoy the rest of your night, and I can't wait to talk to you guys throughout the season to see how your picks turned out.